Hi, I'm Sue, and I'm reading from Matthew chapter 28. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for the angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were as white as snow. The guards were so afraid with him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Don't be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who is crucified. He is not here. He is risen just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay, and then quickly and go and tell the disciples. He is risen from the dead and is going ahead with you in Galilee. There you will see him." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid and yet filled with joy, and ran to tell the disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said, and they came to him, clasped at his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to him, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see him." While the women were on their way, some of the guards went to the city and reported what had happened. When the chief priests met with the elders and devised a plan, they gave the soldiers a large sum of money, telling them, "You are to say his disciples came during the night and stole him whilst you were asleep. If this report gets to the governor, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So the soldiers took the money and did as they were instructed. And this story has been widely circulated amongst Jews to this very day. There are times in life where things will never be the same. Everything has changed. The birth of a child, the death of a loved one, a pandemic. Searching the internet, I found one consultant suggesting that when you're trying to negotiate change, you need to identify what you can and cannot control. Make time to take care of yourself. Work out your thought pattern. Be in the moment. Identify what's important to you. Jesus spent most of his life trying to prepare and warn his disciples what was to happen, his death and his resurrection, and that they had no control over that. Even when Simon Peter draws his sword to defend Jesus, he is reminded that there are things he cannot control, like what is to happen next. The second point is to take care of yourself. There is a misguided idea that true Christians, will always put themselves last. But God values you and me as much as the next person. Whether we acknowledge God or not, he loves and values us as much as anyone else in this world. Therefore, I think we are required to learn to look after ourselves, his valued creation, as much as doing our bit to look after the rainforests. Point 3, to work out your thought pattern. Well, who on earth can do that? I have no idea what I'm thinking most of the time until it leaves my mouth, and then it's too late. A young lad in class was really rude to me and I lost my temper. It was not my finest moment. But when we both had cooled and could have a conversation, I knew that he just didn't understand what had gone on in the moments before we collided. If he and I could realise this seconds earlier, a nasty little incident would not have happened. But that needs training. And we can succeed in working out our thought patterns. But here's something controversial. In the joy of knowing Jesus has risen, is it important that we understand our thoughts? Or with joy like that, do we just be in the moment? Oh, be in the moment. I would have loved to have met Jesus, to be in the moment when the miracles happened, felt the joy of his resurrection, the moment of seeing God. What we do have is the ability to see God in the day, in the moment. In the joy or in the despair, God will be there. In the despair, we can ask, how will I cope with this moment? And that's when prayer is very useful. It's an opportunity for us to ground ourselves in God's care, His love, and in joyful moments we ground ourselves in His delight. And the last of these is to identify what is important to us. Is it God? The Marys trusted the supernatural being that said Jesus had risen from the dead. They believed, and they went, and they did. Were they embarrassed, doubtful, cautious? Maybe. But they didn't let their vulnerabilities become more important than God. They went and did as they were asked. Just in opposition to that, just as a contrast, the good soldiers, the guards, reported to the chief priest, as any good soldiers would do. And then they were given large sums of money to go away and lie about Jesus, with the promise of they will stay out of trouble. The soldiers were faithful to their employers, understandably. But their idols, the things they worshipped and were led by, were different to the Marys. Those soldiers worshipped money and an untroubled life. God was not important to them. We can get through changes by letting God be in control. Mary and the disciples did. Amen.